does she say? Diddly-dum, skiddly-doo-bop, diddly-dum, na-na. Shibbity-bop-bop-bop, diddly-dum, na-na-na.
We met probably a couple of years ago before he went to England, and I had heard some of his music online, and some things that he had already recorded because he had already had a CD in play, and I really thought it was unique. I wanted to be part of it, simple as that. It's different. That's really the key to me. I hear so many different influences. Amadeo really has this sound that kind of spans from the 1930s to modern music. So I hear some blues in there, I hear rock, I hear soul in there, I hear modern rock. It's just a great mix of sounds. It's such a mess, and when you've got something in a mess like this, I think there are opportunities that weren't here before. And a guy like Amadeo, who is really different, and that's what it's going to take, is definitely going to be able to show himself to a broad audience, and they're going to know he's different and good. I've noticed that I've had to consciously think of, all right, how many styles are involved in each piece of music? And this music's all about emotion. So I think that's what you have to bring to this. Every time we go, it's all about dynamics and emotion. In this project, I see it as story, because Amadeo writes great stories, and adding back the emotion into music, which I think a lot is gone in today's music. That's what's going to resonate with people. I guess for me, to remember that this is an art form, and it is a business, but it's first an art form, and you have to have a good piece of art. And that's the way I look at this. And to me, it's all about the emotion, and that's what makes this important.
Well, I've been writing music for a very, very long time, and before that I was writing a lot of poetry. When I was very little, I started writing poetry as soon as I learned to speak and write, pretty much, you know? So we're talking since like I was 6 years old or something. I wanted to be a poet originally, but when I grew up I started to realize that not many people read poetry anymore these days, you know? It's who's gonna read a poetry book? Some stuck-up intellectuals maybe. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wanted to reach a wider audience. So I figured when I was like nearing like 16 or something like that, I figured I should try my hand at music, you know, because I figured that way I could express the poetry. And you know, I was raised on a lot of, you know, old rootsy music. Like my grandfather raised me on a lot of gospel and folk and blues, that kind of stuff. And my mother, she was a big Bob Dylan, Joan Baez fanatic back in the 60s, and she played guitar too. She taught me my first chord. I took it from there. You know, to me, blues is a feeling. It ain't a genre, and that's what people get wrong a lot. And the people like Eric Clapton, B.B. King are great, but you can't tell me they got blues when they're playing $4,000 guitars and wearing sparkly jackets that cost $1,000 each. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, they're far better musicians than I am, hands down. skill-wise and everything, but blues is an emotion. So I took it back to the prison blues that Alan Lomax recorded, and the acoustic blues, man. Mississippi John Hurt, Skip James, Robert Johnson, Tommy Johnson, you know, the cats that went down to the crossroads. You know, to be honest, there's not much intentional in anything I do, and specifically the music, you know, because I go on instinct and emotion. I believe that music is an expression. It's not about thought or consciousness, you know, it's about subconsciousness. And if you got, I mean, the way I write music even, it's like, when I want to write a song, I can sort of pre-program it. I feel like now. It's taken a long time to learn that, but I feel like if you program the right amount of information and the right type of information in your subconsciousness, that's bound to express itself as creativity. Because creativity comes from somewhere, you know? So just think about it. Where does it come from? It comes from the subconscious. So if you put quality work in your subconscious, chances are you're going to get a quilt of quality work out of that. You know what I mean? It's a biological machine. Wow, a more theatrical form. Yeah, I suppose it is, definitely. Well, you know, I mean, just like any other, you know, young kid growing up for the past 40 years, you know, you know, I listen to things like Tommy by The Who and Quadrophenia and The Wall by Pink Floyd and all of that stuff, you know. And I've always loved the theatrical format. And then you got somebody like Michael, right? Michael Jackson, who takes it to a whole other level. I mean, this dude puts on a show, you know? He's got the dancing, which I was very inspired by as a young kid, and I danced, believe it or not. It's just, I'm a writer, I'm a poet. And I feel that music should say something. And why stop at a song? Why not do a whole album that says something? And that's basically where it's at. I mean, you know, I'd like to take that Michael Jackson kind of mentality. That's the greatest thing he's done, I think, is if there would be one person to define perfectionist, it would be him. He stops at nothing, who you used to, you know? And it's unfortunate we lost him, you know, because I think he was the last of the great entertainers. Well, the story I wrote in Paris and Amsterdam. I was on tour. I was signed to a British label for a bit, and I put out an album there. I left that sort of where it was, and settled in for a while, and took a while to just reflect on what I was doing with my career. And I realized that I needed to up my game, because there's a million bands out here in New York City, in Paris, Amsterdam, London, wherever you go. There's 1,000,001 people doing exactly the same thing, you know? And I thought to myself, and I was doing the tour, I was semi-successful for somebody that's starting out at this point, you know? And like, it was just the right thing to do for me, because I wanted to focus on multiple aspects of my career, and this was a way to combine everything. I think it goes back to the blues, you know? It's about sin and redemption, love and loss. And that's the theme that's definitely very present in my personal history and my life. And I think anybody can really relate to that in some kind of way. Some people more than others, but that's what it is, you know? Sin is a part of life. Call it sin, call it whatever, you know? And then there's the redemption, you know? We all make mistakes. But at the end, you gotta follow what you believe in, and do not settle for anything, you know? and that's basically what it is. It's about love, L-O-V-E.